rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, I got challenged. Yeah, I got challenged. The judge. That's right, Judge Wild. So I've been telling you for a while that I was going to demonstrate to you that that I was going to demonstrate for you. I was going to show you my background, my side of the video camera, so you could see just what goes into production on this particular show. And Judge Wild beat me to it. Apparently, the judge, he does a podcast 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, something like that, podcasts on Rumble, and he apparently showed his background or his stuff, all of his equipment. So I can't be one-upped. I'm sorry, but the judge, I mean, I kept saying I was going to do it, so I guess Judge may have, I don't know if he heard that or if he just went ahead and did it anyway just for craps and giggles. So I am going to demonstrate for you my background stuff here, so you can kind of see just what in the heck I had to put together in order to bring this show to you, and all of the stuff that, of course, is going on. So we'll get to that in just a minute. I will go ahead and put together. I'll do it. I'll do it after. That'll be the first thing before I start getting into everything else. Yeah, he had a slow news day. Well, not really for me either. I mean, I didn't really have a slow news day, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and do it anyway, because I've been promising it, and I just never delivered. I overpromised and under-delivered, which is not something that I really appreciate doing. So we're going to do it tonight because, it's an hour and a half long show for tonight. So there we go. There it is. All right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off. We're back at the top of the order now. So Amy is up for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Amy as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and of course, thank you, Amy, for putting in that wonderful pledge that we play here on the program all the time. So, if you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing or reciting the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file that you want to create out of that, and either send it or share it to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online, and I will get you into the rotation. I've got 19 right now. I'd like to get 20. Yeah, well, because I like even numbers. So anyway, as I was saying, of course, we do have a fantastic pet of the week, by the way. Have a fantastic pet of the week submitted by Bonnie for tonight. Kat, we'll get yours next. Kat, we'll get yours next week. Thank you for that submission. We'll get that all picked up. So Anyway, so hang out and join in at the very end where the fantastic pet of the week, although you're going to get a preview here in just a second because I can't really hide her. She's queued up and ready to go. So anyway, all right, let's go ahead and talk about the wonderful headline sponsor, which of course for tonight is, oh, wrong one. There we go. TGRN, that stands for True Grit Roots Network. TGRN.net is our home on the web. And you really ought to go and check us out. You can listen 24/7, 365 on the website. Or if you want to, which, by the way, the website, yeah, you can go and take a listen. These are the web widgets. I'm showing them on the screen right now. They're the web widgets. You can pop them out. You can listen right there. Take your choice, whether it's Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio or Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. Either one. Or if you want to listen natively in the app, you can go and download those. There they are on the App Store or Google Play. You can grab each one, grab them both, and then take your pick, whichever one you want to do. And you can listen to either Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio or Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. Listen to them. They have some fantastic mixes of music, and I'm telling you, it's just a really good thing to listen to. Take us with you. Download those apps and take us with you. Don't forget, too, if you want, you can head on over to the store. Let's see, where is that at? Yeah, you can head on over to the store, and the store, give it a second here. There you go. It has all kinds of wonderful swag. T-shirts, hoodies, and caps or hats, depending upon which way you want to go. And, yeah, go ahead and get things going. And, yes, I'm hidden. I'm actually hidden behind the True Grit Roots Network. See, here I am. Hi. Anyway, so there you go. And you can go and check that out right here on True Grit Roots Network. TGRN.net is the place to go for that. And yeah, there you go. All right. So yeah, go and visit us, TGRN.net. That's True Grit Roots Network, based out of Austin, Texas. Yep. All right. Well, before we get involved in too much stuff here, I am going to put my money where my mouth is. And so give the camera a second because I'm doing this from my phone is my camera that I'm going to be doing this with. So you'll be able to see here's the phone. This is the phone that I have, and I'm going to use it as the camera. So give it just a second here while it initializes, because it's not initialized right yet, but you'll see me go away. You'll see the background come up, and then you'll see all of us. And there we go. So hang on just a second. Gonna initialize. There it is. Boom. All right. So let me see if I can. So first of all, there's my microphone. Woohoo. See? There's my microphone and my hands, and you can see. So I have 4 screens. There's my overhead light, but I have 4 screens. I have this one, and this one is running the OBS software. That's OBS Studio, and I've got a couple of custom window docks in there. And you can see, of course, the audio. My microphone right there coming through. Hopefully you guys can hear me. And you can see your chat right up there. And I've got the time right there. And then that's the program that's going out. You can see how it's multiplying. Kind of interesting when it does that. But anyway, it's multiplying and showing everything. But this is the brains of the transmission operation. Then we go over here to this window. And this window shows me a few things. For an example, up there is the temperature. When I've talked about how my computer is shut down temperature-wise, yeah, that's what it does. I watch it right up here. This is, of course, your guys' chat on the Rumble side of the house. Okay, so because the vast majority of my followers are on Rumble, so that's why that's up there. You can see this is the Pet of the Week's queued up for tonight, and I've got a couple of videos that are going to be queued up for it, and this is the text, the email that gets sent. So there's that. And then up here in this corner, this is where I record the audio portion of the program specifically to place on Spotify and so on and so forth. I use a program, or I use a service called Spreaker that distributes the audio portion of the program to Spotify, Amazon, all of that place. And that's called BUTT, B-U-T-T. Broadcast using this tool is what that stands for. But that's BUTT right there. And then we go down here, right below it on the next screen down. Sorry for the shakiness. But this is where I have all of my whole list of stuff that I do for the show. So this is all of the news articles and things that I've got queued up and ready to go. This is what we see video-wise, anything that I'm going to do on video or whatever. And there it is right there. That's everything that I've got. You can see I've got them all queued up right here across the top. And granted, I don't ever always get to everything, but there you go. That's what I do. And then over here on this side, this is where I monitor all of the feeds coming in. So for an example, you can see Rumble right here, Rumble Studio, and there's my ad reads right here on the right-hand side. These are the ad reads that are being presented. There we go. Being presented to me to add. And then obviously I have the Rumble feed up. I have the YouTube feed up. There's the Facebook feed. And there's the X feed, which the X feed is catching up because it pauses all the time whenever I'm not going there. But anyway, so there you go. There it is. Now, down below this is my work computer over here. So I'm not going to show you anything on that because that's my work computer. But over here is my let me move this out of the way. Over here is my mixer board that has all of the mixing stuff in it, cards and so on and so forth. And then that right over here on this side, this guy is my headphones for all of it. And this is the mixer board. So you're seeing everything coming out through here in the mix, and it's going back into the computer, and you guys can see all of it. And then down below here on my stand-up desk, there's my little computer. This is the computer that I built just for this. And there is my control board, which the control board I have a cheat sheet for. So this control board allows me to do all of the, like the flag, for an example here, if I wanted to show, say, TGRN again, I'd press 3, and that would show you TGRN like that. So that's what that is, and that's a programmable keyboard that I did. And then, of course, this is my regular keyboard that I use. All of this on a standing desk. I have my We the People water glass right here for if I get dry, and then there's my drink. So there's my drink, and I haven't even said what tonight's drink is, but you can kind of guess from the bottle. And there you go. That is everything. That is all of it. That's the entire set. It is all taken care of. So there you go. So now you've seen my setup. And I got to tell you, it was kind of interesting It was kind of interesting learning about all of this. Now, keep in mind, I mean, I've been doing this for like five years now. Oh yeah, I can't forget. I've been doing this for 5 years now, and so again, it's just one of those things I've built up over time. Everything that's going on. Yeah, I forgot to show you that. There's the book with the rounded corners. I always have that ready for it. And yes, Nana of JJS got it right. And you know what? I got to go back to the head page because I have to do this because it is Whiskey Wednesday.
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Yep, that's right. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. All right, and Nana of JJS grabbed it right, and there it is. I got rid of the final of the Crown Royal Blackberry. This is my last salute to summer. So this is the blackberry lemonade mixed drink for tonight. Yeah, I know. Bonnie writes in the chat, she's like, we've been with you for 5 years. Yeah, it'll be 6 in April. Yeah, that'll be the 6th year in April. So, yeah, there you go. So anyway, that's my setup. Kind of a quick overview. That's my setup, but yeah. And of course, the camera is like looking right at me, and I didn't show you the green screen in the background, but I do have the green screen back there. And so there you go. Now you've seen my world as I see you. So there we go. A couple of the things that I do have, like for an example, those 4 screens, I've got 2 of them that connect to my regular 9 to 5 work computer as well. And so that kind of stuff. The 2 top ones are always on my well, I call it my video box, but the video computer. And by the way, too, just so you guys know, I run Ubuntu to do all of this. This entire thing is done entirely on the Linux platform known as Ubuntu. So everything you see here is all Linux. And yeah, so there you go. It's just a little bit of a tidbit in the background, and so you can kind of see everything that's going on. So yeah. Oh, all right. You've got it all, and I might use that trick, that cell phone as a camera trick sometime in the near future, but we'll see. All right, let's get kicked off and get things going. Let's see. I've done the whiskey. I've talked about that. Perfect. All right, we're on track to go. So, Donald Trump gave a speech at the United Nations. And depending upon which side of the aisle you sat on or sit on, will depend on what you thought of his speech. But the Epoch Times has a great piece. I've got it in the show notes that talks about what the 7 key takeaways from Trump's speech and his bilateral meetings that he had. So, first of all, he said that the UN, or he talked about the UN, did not contribute to the trade deals. He credited himself with bringing end to 7 conflicts so far this year, with little to no help from the international organization. Now, of course, you got to understand, I mean, Trump is a bit of a narcissist. You kind of have to be in his line of work, and which is politics and showmanship. But all of that, of course, is true. He brokered some instrumental deals between Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, and Egypt and Ethiopia, as well as Armenia and Azerbaijan. So there you go. That's what it all is all about. and he ended those. He negotiated those before. I mean, let's be honest, before they even really got started, for the most part. He also talked about illegal immigration or illegal aliens destroying other countries. Now, he is specifically talking about not only here in the U.S., but he also is talking about Europe, because Europe has been importing aliens from all kinds of different places, and literally they are taking over those countries. Now, he's attempting to try and keep that from happening here in the U.S., and he's been doing a pretty damn good job for it. And, you know, by the way, we just announced, I think it's something like 2 to 2.5 million illegal aliens have been deported now, which is awesome. So anyway, he continued and was also talking about globalist climate policies, which at one point he said that Trump said that Europe had collectively reduced its carbon footprint by around 37%, but he said that Europe's efforts were negated by a 54% increase in the global carbon footprint driven heavily by China. See, this is what I am keep on saying. Until we can get China, India, and Russia to do the exact same thing that all of the other Western countries are doing, you're not going to have any net positive out of this whole climate policies. And that's even assuming that these climate policies are going to be effective. As I've said on this program, we essentially are attempting to try and lower the overall carbon footprint, or the overall temperature, I should say, by 2 degrees Celsius. And that's if we can hit all of the climate, or all of the carbon footprint, quote unquote, goals and the climate agenda goals, which we're not going to do. We can't do it. We cannot do it without China, Russia, and India in particular, all three being a part of this. And they can't. It's impossible. Okay? And that's even assuming that the science, or science, that they're pushing is actually even true. There's a gentleman on Facebook I've been following, and he's a actual meteorologist. And he just went and testified before Congress about the climate agenda. And he's been disputing pretty much everything that the climate Scientologists have been, or evangelists have all been saying about it. And he's been pointing out things like, when they say that the temperature is the highest ever, let me show you. And he goes back in time and he shows you actual recorded data and says, yeah, we're not even close. We're not even close. That account, I think, is called Chris Martz, Martz, I believe, on Facebook. So you might want to look him up and follow him. It's kind of interesting, some of the things that he does, and he does it in a very scientific way, of course. So, yeah. Anyway, continuing on about Trump's visit to the UN, he actually expressed optimism about Ukraine retaking territory in the Ukraine-Russia war. He signaled new support for Ukraine's goals to retake all the land it has lost to Russia since 2004. So this is a bit of a shift in policy. And he is essentially shifting his position in it. And, he was originally talking not too long ago. Now, keep in mind, Trump is a realist, all right? He may say something or, throw things at the dartboard to kind of sort of see what sticks, but at the end of all of it, he figures it out and he realizes, okay, well, that's kind of not going to happen. So then he's going to shift. And he shifts and changes his position because of new data, which, believe it or not, is exactly what the left keeps trying to tell everybody. Intelligent people shift their positions whenever they discover new data. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah. Anyway, the point being here is that now he is sort of talking about, well, you know, I mean, obviously, let's just put this out on the table. It is completely obvious, 100% completely obvious that Ukraine and Russia are not going to come to the table because of the fact that Russia is refusing to quit. See, Russia sits there and tells Trump, oh, yeah, we should come to the table. We should talk all this stuff. And then they go and immediately attack and bomb something in Ukraine or whatever. Drone strike Ukraine, whatever it is. And so they're sitting here and it's like, come on. Come on. Really? You know, like I've been saying about the Democrats have been talking about, oh, Donald Trump won't come to the table. Why would you come to the table when you know the other side isn't willing to negotiate, which is essentially what's going on here in the Russia-Ukraine war? Ukraine would like to negotiate. They already set themselves up for that. But then they got basically a pie in the face, whipped cream pie in the face, but from Russia, because Russia came all the way to Alaska, met with Trump. Trump was saying, hey, I think it's a good opportunity. And then next day they attacked Ukraine in one way, shape, or form. Yeah. Putin doesn't want to stop this. Putin is not looking to stop. So that being said, now Trump is like, well, okay, must be time to put things back as best we can, of course. And let's try and get things running. So, yeah, there you go. He also, Trump at NATO, also called for NATO to shoot down aerial incursions. That it's time for, NATO itself needs to shoot down the Russian aircraft that enter into their airspace. Not too many people know this, or maybe, I don't know, if you're watching the news like I do. Of course, I didn't report on it, but if you're watching the news like I do, Poland was actually invaded, technically, by drones, Russian drones. And they were able to fend off what was going down there. But yeah, Poland reported shooting down multiple suspected Russian drones on September 10th. Charlie Kirk was shot that day, which is probably why it got covered up by the mainstream media, meaning. Anyway. So, yeah. Now, this next point is a very key point. Very key point for this. Which this has to happen in order for Ukraine or Russia to get hurt by all of this. See, one big problem that Europe has had is that they have been dependent upon Russian energy. Now, what needs to happen, honestly, is that America needs to start stepping up and backfilling Europeans' energy needs. We need to start drill, baby, drill, and start backfilling Europe's energy needs so that we can hem Russia oil in. So in the UN address, Trump expressed frustration that Russia can continue to keep its war-making industry running with energy exports because that's what it's been doing. Trump said that China and India remain the primary funders of the Russian war effort through their continued purchases of Russian fossil fuels. However, he said even NATO is doing the same. They need to stop. Well, there's your answer. If we kick up our industrial complex and start handing over stuff handing over stuff to NATO, to Europe, and try and negotiate deals with India. China's not going to. Let's just put it that way. China doesn't want American oil. China doesn't want American, necessarily to bolster America. But if we can get India on board, we can create a severe shortage for Russia, shortage in demand for Russia energy, and slow down some of the money-making machine that Russia is using in order to fund this war. So, and just for thought processes here, the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air found that the European Union itself was the fourth largest producer of Russian crude oil exports since the end of 2022. And that was just in last August. And of course, the final piece here, Trump implored world leaders to prioritize diplomacy and cease the development of biological and nuclear weapons. He said during his address, "I look at weapons that are so powerful that we just can't ever use them. If we ever use them, the world literally might come to an end." Now, this is Trump. Trump is not a warmonger. Trump has never been a warmonger. If he can find a way to peace first, that's what he's going to do. But make no mistake, he will wield the sword should he need to. Should he need to, he will wield the sword. He pressed in his speech for the path to peace, suggesting the future of the organization and humanity are potentially at stake. Which again is part of the reason why he struck Iran to get rid of their nuclear weapons program that they denied that they had. The president, at the same time, also alluded to the COVID-19 virus and the origins of the contagion, but held back from specifically mentioning China. Anyway, his exact quote were, "Just a few years ago, reckless experiments overseas gave us a devastating global pandemic." Yeah. Well, yeah. He also said a few things that were obviously inflammatory. For an example, he said, "Your countries are going to hell." Yeah. That's typical Trump. Yeah. And he talks about them going to hell because of unchecked mass migration. Like I said, he specifically targeted the European nations because they're the ones that are ultimately getting the result of all of this. So, yeah. He called out London Mayor Sadiq Khan. He praised El Salvador's president, Bukele, for detaining U.S. deportees in CICOT. So, yeah, there you go. Touching on the Middle East and Iran also, too, he demanded that Hamas release the hostages now, which they should. I mean, Hamas, speaking about that, and I'm just going to point this out because, look, folks, at the same time, early last week, Canada, Australia, UK, and Portugal recognized Palestinian statehood. Why recognize Palestinian statehood when there has never been a Palestinian state? Back in 1948, when Israel was created based off of British rule and the Brits pulled back and they created the state of Israel, The Arabs were offered as a part of that deal, hey, you guys can have equal land. The Arabs of the nation, not Palestinians, okay, because Palestinians, even by the Arabs, are considered Arabs. They're not a separated state. In fact, the word Palestine comes from understandably, a very murky etymology. And Palestine itself is, some historians believe, a bastardization of the word Philistine, which the Philistines were a people that inhabited the area that we now know as the Gaza Strip. The Palestinians also reportedly came from areas like the West Bank, which is now in Jordan, which is now part of Jordan, or in that area. There are so many things that are wrapped around that particular area of the world in terms of religious backgrounds. I mean, just about everything that we know of comes from the towns of like Jerusalem, Bethlehem, all of these references, religious references, not only in the Jewish religion, but the Muslim religion and Christianity. This is a very hotly contested area, but the one thing that has been constant, the one thing that has been constant was the Jewish people. The Jewish people have their roots somewhere around the 2,500 years worth. But the word Palestine is murky at best as to where it comes from. In fact, I read from one source that the word isn't even translatable in Arab, in the Arab language, whichever one that is. There is no state of Palestine. So to sit here and talk about, hey, we're going to recognize Palestinian statehood, which, by the way, too, don't forget history. 1948 was when the state of Israel was created. It was offered for the Palestinians to have a equal amount of land in that deal. The Arabs gave that up. They said, no, we don't want it. And it's been tried over and over and over again. Bill Clinton tried it, where the Palestinian, or the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, he tried to create a two-state solution. No go. Even Israel backed out of the Gaza Strip in late 2006. Or maybe it was early 2006. I think it was 2006, 2007. Even Israel handed over the Gaza Strip and said, look, we're done. We're backing out. You guys, we're going to put up a wall, fence, whatever, and you guys just fund yourselves. And what happened? Immediately, Hamas got voted in as the leadership for that area. And what did they do? On October 7th, they went and attacked Israel, unprovoked, killed thousands, and took 200 hostages, most of which are dead. The Palestinians do not want peace. They do not want a two-state solution. What they want is for the Jewish and Christian populations to get wiped off the map completely. You want to talk genocide? That's it. From the river to the sea is their statement. So, there you go. I can't even imagine why these idiots would go ahead and recognize something that has never existed. Ever. And yet, people are believing the lies by Hamas and all of these other organizations that are supporting these people that are saying, oh, no, 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 no. They own it. They own it. No, they don't. They never did. They were actually a nomadic people anyway. They never owned any land. They just roamed. That's it. All right. Let's talk about. Let's see. Oh, I haven't done this one in a while. Let's do this guy. All right. So let's talk about caddis sports. And especially if you're a fishing person. Okay. A fishing person. All right, anglers. If you're ready to fish remote lakes or quiet rivers in total stealth mode, check out the Nevada Fishing Float Tube from Caddis Sports. That's Caddis Sports. This U-shaped beast is built for serious fishing missions. Ultra stable, super maneuverable, and tough as nails thanks to heavy-duty ripstop material and double-stitched seams. You get a padded backrest, oversized seat, 2 large gear pockets, a rod holder, a stripping apron, and even a dry fly patch. Everything that you need to stay locked in and ready when the bite is on. Fluorescent accents keep you visible out on the water, and carry handles make it easy to haul in and out. Whether you're chasing bass in the shadows or hiking into alpine trout lakes, the Nevada Float Tube is built for the job. Use promo code RUMBLE at checkout and get 10% off your order today. Go to Caddis Sports, that's Caddis Sports.com. Use promo code RUMBLE and get 10% off your order. When you order a couple of different things. But anyway, what you're looking for is obviously the Nevada Float Tube. So go to Caddis Sports, Caddis Sports.com, and get 10% off your order when you use promo code RUMBLE at checkout. That's Caddis Sports, Caddis Sports.com. Get out there, stay light, and catch the big one. All right. Well, some good news out of that horrific shooting out of Minnesota, that Catholic church. There's a 12-year-old girl that apparently was hit in the head during that attack. And reports are that she is making miraculous progress. Here in the Epic Times, you can see right here, that's the picture of the young girl. She is 12-year-old, and she is making miraculous progress, according to her family in a statement. She was the most seriously wounded child among those who had survived the shooting at the Church of the Annunciation. And she's going to move this week from acute care to an inpatient rehabilitation program. Prayers worked. And we got to keep praying, but prayers worked. Our medical team remains cautiously optimistic, the family said. Sophia is showing signs of neurological recovery just weeks after doctors were unsure whether or not she would survive. Her family said in a statement released on Monday that Sophia is strong, brave, and unwavering in her fight toward healing. We ask that you continue to pray for her as she walks this road to recovery. It is by God's will that she has come this far. Sophia and her classmates were celebrating the first mass of the new school year when the shooter opened fire through a window, killing 2 students, wounding 21 people. Shooter then killed himself. And, yeah. So, there we go. Prayer works, folks. Prayer works. And we need to keep praying for these people. We need to keep praying. So she can hopefully make a full recovery. Some positive news coming out of that horrific shooting. Well, speaking of shooting, there was a shooting at a Dallas ICE facility. At least 3 people have been shot. 1 was killed. I think there was actually 2 that were killed. But anyway, the FBI says that it's investigating the incident as a targeted attack against ICE. Now, gee, I wonder what political leanings this individual might have for it. Apparently, investigations have uncovered anti-ICE messaging on bullet rounds found near the shooter. It apparently occurred as ICE officers were transferring detainees into the facility. The shooter died, of course, due to a self-inflicted gunshot wound, authorities said. The 3 individuals who were shot, by the way, were detainees. So this dumbass, and yes, I'm going to call him a dumbass, but this dumbass, who obviously was more than likely the political leanings of the left, he basically shot the people that he was trying to help. What a complete moron. Anyway, they were shot while inside of a law enforcement van, according to ICE sources telling Fox News. So, yeah, there you go. And in fact, here's an image. This guy must have gotten his thought processes off of the frickin' Charlie Kirk shooter. Because here's an image. He didn't bother to etch it in. He didn't bother to etch them in, but there they are. You can see it's written in like hand, written by hand in all of this. So, yeah. These people, they're freaking morons is what they are. They're sick, disgusting morons. And in fact, if anybody follows Andrea Junker, and yes, I'm going to call her out. She's on both X and Facebook, and for some damn reason, I always get her Facebook feed on mine. But she posted, and she's done this before, but she's posted about, one of the greatest days in the world will be when we see that big orange obituary. You obviously know exactly what she is talking about, but what you don't seem to understand is that this wench, and yes, I'm going to call her a wench. She is a moron. She is a complete leftist, and she is a sick and disgusting human being wishing death on somebody. They don't learn. They're not going to learn about any of this. This is why I keep saying there is no reconciliation with these people. There is zero reconciliation with these people. These people have a sick, twisted, delusional, and demented mind. They want people on the right, conservatives like myself, dead. They want to kill us. Whether they state it clearly, like Andrea Junker is doing, or they hide it, they still secretly think it. It is 100% guaranteed. These people are sick. They are mentally deranged and delusional. They have lost all value in human life, regardless of who it is. Now, I have never wished death on anybody who didn't realistically deserve it, because remember, there is a difference between murder and self-defense or criminal justice for somebody when they're put to death. There is a, man's law does come into play. There is, of course, the idea of an eye for an eye, which is the Old Testament. But these people, they have no sense of humanity anymore. They don't care. They gleefully sat there and loved the fact that Charlie Kirk got shot in front of his family and killed instantly, apparently, according to the reports by the eyewitnesses that were there. And that's all they want. That's all they want, is for conservatives to just die. That's what they're looking for. Don't trust these people. Trust them about as far as you can throw them. And even then, I wouldn't even trust them that far. Well, as far as the whole idea, by the way, where left-wing terrorism is coming from and what it is doing, the mainstream media, for the most part, hasn't really paid attention to it. However, I caught this headline from a mainstream propagandist outlet. Now, you remember this outlet because they fomented the suckers and losers hoax. It was made up completely by the editorial, I believe, by the editorial or the editor, the guy in charge of the editorial of it. But anyway, here in the Atlantic, left-wing terrorism is on the rise. Left-wing terrorism is on the rise. Yep. It sure is. It absolutely is. And for the Atlantic, a leftist propagandist outlet, you can't even call it journalism because they make up shit all the time. But for the leftist outlet known as the Atlantic, the rag known as the Atlantic, to call this out is an indication that, hey, somebody's paying attention. Somebody is paying attention. It certainly isn't the mainstream media, because the mainstream media has been sort of glossing over things like the attacks on the ABC affiliate, gunfire. They call it a drive-by shooting. Thankfully, nobody got hurt. But the drive-by shooting right after the Jimmy Kimmel got canceled and all of that. These leftist morons are looking for this kind of thing. Have you noticed we've had several shootings and several acts of violence just in the last couple of weeks since Charlie Kirk's death. And it's all been leftists. Every single one has been a leftist. Every single one. And so the Atlantic, amazingly, actually pulled up the truth. It's a shock. I'm amazed they reported on the truth rather than trying to cover it up. But the rest of the mainstream media definitely are doing it. Shootings, bomb threats, this in the Blaze. Shootings, bomb threats, violent rhetoric have escalated since Charlie Kirk's murder. That hasn't gone down. It's escalated. Here's some of the ones that have been out there. Let's see. New Hampshire, 23-year-old allegedly opened fire on a wedding at a New Hampshire country club, killing one and wounding two other adults. He may have been a former employee at the club, but that doesn't appear to be his main reason for the attack. Apparently, according to someone here, he was actually saying something very specific while he was shooting, according to a witness. That witness reported hearing the suspect shout, "Free Palestine." Huh. What are we going to free when it's never existed? Yeah. Someone shot up the local ABC station in Sacramento, California. I told you about that. Two people were arrested by the FBI for allegedly planting a bomb under a local Fox News van in Salt Lake City right after Charlie was assassinated. And then, of course, now we have this attack on the ICE Center. Yeah. And the mainstream media is just sort of covering it up, not really reporting about this stuff. They're not really paying attention. They don't bother. Yeah. It's okay. Guarantee you if the positions were flipped, you would see the mainstream media just going out of their minds about any kind of right-wing, oh my God, right-wing attacks. Oh, hell. What are we going to do? Yeah, well. Sorry, had to get a drink there. Ooh, almost hit my keyboard. That wouldn't have been good. With a drip. Anyway. So yeah. The leftist stuff is going up. And it's going to keep going up. Keep going up. Told you, folks, this is going to get worse before it gets better. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And it's not just the attacks, realistically, in, the physical attacks, the violent attacks that are going on. The attacks in the legal system keep coming. The attacks in the legal system keep coming. Well, thankfully, the Supreme Court has decided to step in on this particular case. See, they keep wanting to try and force Trump to keep him from firing people who literally are bureaucrats, and I would guess the vast majority that he's been getting rid of are also leftists, because they've been running our government. And our government, by the way, was never supposed to be a bureaucrat-run government. It was supposed to be run by elected officials. But again, because of the fact that the Constitution has been ignored for several decades, that its boundaries have been ignored by several decades of individuals. And this is part of the reason why I call out to Elon Musk. I even put a post to him, never answered. Can't imagine why. To basically say, hey, Elon, we need to start suing under the 10th Amendment. We need to start suing under the idea that the federal government is no longer contractually within its contractually bound guardrails. So there you go. Anyway, to get back to this court case, the Supreme Court on Monday announced that it was going to take up a case that gets to the heart of why the deep state exists. This in the Daily Signal. It's going to revisit a precedent that defended the bureaucracy against the executive power vested in the president. So hopefully, God willing, this Supreme Court will right another wrong that was done by the leftist activists that have incorporated in our Supreme Court for literally decades. So the case here is Donald Trump versus Rebecca Kelly Slaughter. And they decided to block, meaning the Supreme Court, decided to block the lower court order that was forcing the president to actually rehire the commissioner of the Federal Trade Commission after he had fired her in March. Now, one thing that you need to understand, folks, is that our government was never designed to have any kind of bureaucratic entity that was outside of the Congress or the executive branch. And in fact, the Congress creates the branches, not the branches, but creates the entities, and the executive branch is supposed to oversee them. That's how the separation of powers is supposed to work, because the executive branch is in charge of implementing and, in the very name, execute the laws as written by Congress. See, Congress creates the laws, the president executes those laws. That's how this is supposed to work. But what's happened over our history, we're talking like, decades back. Woodrow Wilson is the first one in particular. In his mind, Congress shouldn't have even existed. That the presidency was, that the executive was the government. And in his mind, being president of the United States, he was able to do whatever he wanted. See, he didn't believe in the Constitution the way that it was written. He believed that the executive should be essentially ruling similarly to a king. And that's not the case. Congress creates the laws, the president executes the laws. That's the way our country is broken up and is supposed to work. And what's happening here now is that Donald Trump is going through and firing these people who are doing basically doing a bad job, or are known leftists. And these bureaucrats, our country was not designed to be run by bureaucrats. It really isn't. It was not designed for that. And yet that is exactly what Woodrow Wilson and subsequently people like FDR and some other of the leftist idiots have been doing to this country ever since. But anyway, on Monday, the Supreme Court announced that it wasn't just going to allow Trump to fire Slaughter until the case is resolved in court, but that it would also fully consider the case. That it would fully consider the case. Now, the court's majority directed both parties, and this is interesting because the Supreme Court decided that, hey, we're going to hear it, but these are the two central questions that we want answered by both sides. Question number one, whether statutory removal protections for members of the Federal Trade Commission violate the separation of powers. I guarantee you they do. But the second question is, if so, whether or not the case Humphrey's Executor versus the United States back in 1935 should actually be overruled. So what is this precedent called Humphrey's Executor? Well, the Supreme Court ruled that the Constitution allows Congress to enact laws limiting the power of the president to fire executive officials of a quote independent agency. Now, realistically, this goes back to FDR on the opposite side, but FDR had fired William E. Humphrey, who was an FTC commissioner, over policy disagreements over economic regulation and the New Deal. Even though the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission Act of 1914, prohibited the president from firing a commissioner for any reason other than inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. Now, Justice George Sutherland back then wrote the majority opinion and created kind of a Frankenstein's monster out of the FTC. He ruled that the FTC was not a traditional executive agency under the Constitution, which is bullshit. Yes, it is a traditional executive agency. Folks, the federal government, the Congress, is not allowed to just create agencies out of thin air that have no responsibility or accountability to any non-constitutional entity. Okay? They just shouldn't. They can't. Because realistically, under Article 1, Section 8, they only have limited powers. Those limited powers are enumerated in the Constitution, and nowhere in the Constitution does it state, hey, Congress, you can set up whatever kind of independent agency and, bureaucracy that you want. It doesn't work that way. See, this is part of the reason why I keep saying the Constitution should be pared back. We should pare it back to its original intent, which is essentially that Congress runs the legislation, the president runs the executive, because the president is the executive. So anyway, George Sutherland, back to this, he created this because he said that that the FTC in particular was not subject to presidential's authority under Article 2 because it engaged in quasi-legislative and quasi-jurisdictional functions, or judicial functions. I'm sorry, but no, that there is not anything in the Constitution that says that when Congress creates this entity, whatever it is, that it is not subject to the Constitution, which is essentially what he is claiming right here. And that's wrong. Sutherland continued and says, to the extent that it exercises any executive function as distinguished from executive power in the constitutional sense, it does so in the discharge and the effectuation of its quasi-legislative or quasi-judicial powers, or as an agency of the legislative or judicial departments of the government. He basically wrote that the FTC had constitutionality in that it combined the executive, legislative, and judicial functions. And again, this is not what the founders wanted. There was a reason why they separated it out. And in fact, you can even read in the Federalist Papers, Federalist 14. Look it up online. Read the entire thing. I'm telling you, that was their argument. Their full argument was, hey, we are not going to have a monarchy. We're not going to have a king. We're not going to have a bureaucracy that is built around and one person can be in charge. No, their idea was break it up. Break up the powers, because if you break up the powers and you break up the levels, this is part of the reason why federalism came into play. If you break up the powers and break up the levels, what you are essentially doing is making it so that the power cannot be concentrated. The whole idea of checks and balances is to avoid stuff exactly like this. And again, I point out multiple times, Congress does not have the power to delegate anything that Congress does not control. And in fact, there are cases where the Supreme Court has even said that Congress can't delegate its authority anyway. which is part of the problem that we have with the bureaucracies right now. That if the laws, again, the Chevron doctrine was just overturned, which was one of those things, saying that the bureaucracy, the bureaucrats in the executive agencies were supposed to interpret the laws that were written rather than forcing Congress to actually write the laws better. And this is what the president is supposed to do. The president is supposed to be able to use his or her veto powers to be able to tell Congress, yeah, I can't execute this because you guys didn't write it clearly enough. I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do with this. That was the point of the veto power, was to basically say, hey, look, Congress, you need to write this better. You need to tell me exactly what it is that I'm doing here. But no, Congress has gotten lazy, and they're just like, oh, well, we're just going to create or make things just, generic, which is why we ended up with USAID as an example. Now, critics of that ruling have long called for the Supreme Court to actually reverse this, and I agree. It needs to be reversed. Okay? It needs to be reversed. And so, of course, our three activists, they're not jurists, they're not constitutional jurists at all, but our three activists, they went ahead and, Kagan, Sotomayor, and Jackson all joined in the dissension from the order. So, Kagan noted that the Slaughter case is the latest in a series. The Supreme Court had previously issued stays allowing Trump to fire members of both the National Labor Relations Board, the Merit System Protection Board, as well as the Consumer Product Safety Commission, which is exactly right. Folks, basic civics 101. The president is the executive. The president is the guy in charge. The president is the man who executes the laws, and he and or she, if it ever becomes a woman, are in control of all of the bureaucratic entities that have been created. And to be honest with you, my argument about Congress not being able to pass down its responsibilities or pass down its responsibilities at all goes to even the IRS. See, I believe constitutionally the IRS shouldn't even exist. That's Congress's job. Anyway, Kagan wrote in her dissent that the court's majority, stay order by stay order, has handed full control of all of those agencies to the president. No shit, lady. Hello? Constitution, right here. Right here. I got a book, by the way, that says you can read this and fully understand it in 30 days. I say it takes you 15 minutes to read through the whole thing, and halfway intelligent people can actually understand it almost immediately. But this is complete asinine thoughts that she's like, oh, no. The president doesn't have full control of all those agencies. Yes, he does. It's known as being the executive. I can't even imagine. Sorry, I was reading the chat here. I'm watching. There's something brewing over in the Rumble chat. Anyway, so let me get back to this, because she also says he may now remove. So says the majority, though Congress said differently. Again, Kagan, Congress does not control the president. They were given limited ability to remove him, but they don't control him. They don't control her if she's in office, if we get one. I mean, this is nuts, folks. This is totally crazy from a Supreme Court justice. Yes, he can remove any member he wishes at any time for any reason, or literally no reason at all. Absolutely. There should be no agency bipartisanship and independence. I mean, yeah. So, yeah. And here's the truth. That the Supreme Court's rulings in those cases did not involve granting the president any new power. They actually just reaffirmed the constitutional power that he already has. You dumbass leftists that are out there, you dumbass leftists don't seem to understand that this is constitutionally correct. Now, hopefully, though, the Supreme Court, and honestly, I'm just gonna tell you this right now, okay? I'm just gonna tell you this right now. If Roberts has his way, he's gonna narrow this down to where it's like extremely narrow. What really should come out of this is the same thing that should have come out of the whole Murphy versus Missouri or any of the other narrow ass rulings and about this should be, and the one that Amy Coney Barrett wrote. She should have said, with regards to the lower district courts trying to usurp the power of the president, instead of using soft language, she should have just come out and said, "You shall stop doing this." See, these people need to understand that the Constitution is very clear and very specific. And in the idea of whether or not it's a living document, it is a living document only in the fact that it can be changed. But if it is to be changed, it needs to go through the Article 5 process. Otherwise, as Antonin Scalia once said, the Constitution says what it says and does not say what it does not say. See, this is utter lunacy here. This is utter lunacy. Now, the Daily Signal article that I'm pulling a lot of this from is basically pointed out that an April poll suggests that as many as 75% of the Washington, D.C. based bureaucrats who make $75,000 a year or more and who voted for Kamala Harris back in November will oppose a lawful Trump order if they consider it bad policy. Folks, this is literally what the deep state is. Overturning this president, critics say, means giving Trump unlimited power. No, it's just correcting an error that was done a long time ago. Folks, the executive branch, all of the bureaucracy and the agencies and everything done underneath him are his to choose what to do with. That's what's supposed to happen here. The executive power is vested in the President of the United States. Period. There is no, the executive power is vested in the President and any other bureaucracies that are created by Congress, which, by the way, those bureaucracies are separate and individual entities, and therefore the President cannot do anything. Bullshit! It says it. Oh, you're going to make me pull out the teacher glasses here. Let's go right to Article 2. Here we go. Section 1, first sentence. The executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. That's the first sentence. Right there. Article 2. The president is the executive. If the president is the executive, then all of the entities underneath the executive branch, he and he alone, or her, if it becomes a woman, he and he alone can do with what he pleases. I hope that this works out the way that it should. And seriously, I don't seem to understand. I've been saying this on the social medias. Donald Trump is the most constitutional president that we have had, at least of the last 3, if not further back than that. He is the most constitutional because he wants to do what the Constitution gives him the power to do. And that's what needs to be corrected here. All right. One last thing, and then we'll get into Pet of the Week. Apparently, and this is a good thing, apparently, according to the Post-Millennial, former FBI Director James Comey is reportedly going to be indicted in the coming days. There was an NBC report today that cited 3 separate sources saying this, that Comey is facing imminent indictment in the Eastern District of Virginia. Ken Delanian, who is an MSNBC correspondent, posted on X, quote, the full extent of the charges being prepared against Comey is unclear, but sources believe that at least one element of the indictment, if it goes forward, will accuse him of lying to Congress during his testimony on September 30th, 2020, about whether he authorized a leak of information. Now, the 5-year statute of limitations on that charge is going to lapse on Tuesday. So I'm assuming, based on that statement, that if he is charged with it, that pauses the statute of limitations on that. Now, should a federal grand jury approve the case, it will be one of the highest profile incidences during Trump's second presidency. So, yeah, and that's breaking right there. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get on over to where is it? Where's my pet of the week thing? See, I told you guys, I got to figure out what my codes are. So here you go. Let's go ahead and get on to the pet of the week. All right. And the pet of the week, of course, has been submitted by Bonnie. Let's see if I can do this. Let's turn that on, turn that off, and turn this on. And there she is. All right, so here is the story from Bonnie. Rick, this last week, my neighbors found this sweet baby, but could not keep her long enough to find her family. She ended up staying with us for 2 days, and then we took her to a foster mom because she is too high energy for us. Well, she looks like some sort of a husky derivative, so yeah, I can understand that. You'll recall I babysat for my son and his fiance's dog not too long ago, and he is a husky derivative. Anyway, sorry. Here, let's go back to Bonnie. Bonnie says, here are some pictures of her, and hopefully last will be a video, or I will send it in a separate email. I did get them both, and we will play both. Fat Paws named her Luna and she seems to have responded to the name. So here you're seeing a screenshot of a post of this fur baby. It's actually on the post, fur baby lost and found. But anyway, they apparently found this dog by Cedar Pine and Long Pine Drives. So there you go. Anyway, so there's Luna. And there's Luna in a nice purple glow. I got to ask you, Bonnie, is that purple glow, is that something you added afterward? Because it kind of looks like it is, or maybe not. Anyway. So there's the purple glow. And there's Luna in the regular light. She's just kind of hanging out, which is cool. Okay. On there, it's in the purple glow again. Oh, it's blue. Okay. Well, it looks purple on my side, okay? So there you go. It looks purple on my side. But anyway, so there's Luna again. And Luna is, for those of you that are on the audio portion of the program, she is a black and white. It looks like a black and white husky. So typical of what you would think a husky dog would look like. So there it is. She's got a huge bone. That is a awesome bone. She might be chewing on something in this photo, but yeah. And there, we're back to the original. Well, now let's go and kick up the let's see here. Go ahead and kick up the here we go. All right. So this is Luna apparently playing in the backyard. Running around enjoying whatever toy she's got in her mouth. Yeah, it looks like some sort of a... This is what you got to do with these high-energy dogs, man. You got to run them into the ground. Anyway, so there you go. Oh, and I guess Bonnie said that the picture of the bone, it was actually an antler from Bonnie's other dog, Landon, which I got to give a shout out to Landon. I'm sorry. Hi, Landon. How you doing? Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy, Landon? I always got to do that. Anyway. All right, so let's take a look at this other video that was sent. There she is. Looks like she's having a pup cup, which is a little cup filled with whipped cream that you can get at some coffee stands or whatever. So there you go. That was a quick video. Let's play that again. There she is. She's licking the pup cup. All right.
Good girl, Luna.
Filling and taking it up. Yeah. There she is. All right. So that's Luna. Yep, the pup cup. All right. So that was Luna. Luna is hopefully, Bonnie, you're going to have to get back with us and let us know what happens to Luna or what happened to Luna, because I know you said that you couldn't keep her. But yeah, so you're going to have to get back with us and let us know what happened to her. Did she go to a forever home? Did she go back to her original owners? I mean, so here's the thing. My experience with these kind of dogs, especially, I call them the working dog breeds. And all of the working dog breeds, just so everybody understands, they are very high energy, for the most part. There are some that can be, lower energy and that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, a working dog breed is going to be a much higher energy dog. So if you're a sedentary family, while you may want like a Australian Shepherd or a Husky or, something along those lines, while you may want one, you need to understand that, yeah, what you're taking on is something that is incredibly high energy. And is going to look at, is going to provide you with a lot of work. You're going to have to exercise them. And of course, unfortunately, if you exercise them, they'll eventually get exercised. It's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the bigger and, stronger that they get. And that's pretty much what's going to happen with the dog. So, just be mindful. If you go to like a shelter, if you go to buy a dog or something like that, you really ought to find a breed of dog that actually matches more of your lifestyle. Because otherwise, what can end up happening is, especially with the working dog breeds, a high energy dog will eventually start like chewing up stuff in your house. Okay. And you don't want that. So there you go. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor. If you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, search up the American Perspective channel, hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget on your way out, hit those thumbs up, thumbs downs, or like 3 Chevy says, thumbs sideways, if you want. Across all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.